now bought a book that would help me. Good morning, everyone. Today is a very gloomy day. Like, I woke up and it was raining and I was so sad about that because it has been like the sun has been shining for almost the whole weekend, and I did enjoy that a lot, and I was really hoping that today would be sunny as well, but it's cloudy. And it did stop raining, but it's still very gloomy. And I was so ready for the summer vibes to kick in. Anyways, back to this vlog, because today I'm gonna bring you along to a cozy writing day. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do at the library is work on some of my projects. I have a little narration going on for my next video on YouTube. It's about some of the things I did while traveling in Australia, and I wanted to create like a little story in which I showed some of the footage. And I've been working on like collecting these videos and kind of making something out of it, but I want to have a narration as well. And so I will be working on that today. Then I also will be working on the novel that I'm currently writing. I now bought a book that would help me. Books are the best. You can literally learn anything from a book or a YouTube video, which is insane to me. But I got this book. And I'm not sure, like, I feel like so many people on YouTube that are writing and like are part of the authortube community have read this book, and that's basically why I have it as well. But I was like, let's just start reading. So last week I started with the first chapter. When I started writing, I actually had no idea on like how it all worked and how you actually should write a novel. I feel like I still don't know that exactly, but I do think this is like a very good guide on like how to do that. And just by like trying different things out and starting, just like start writing, that really helped me, because even if some days I write like crap, I look back at that and sometimes it does give me ideas to continue writing again, and it gives me inspiration or like something that I needed to understand the character more, but then I could just like leave it out later on and then write it differently. I don't know, it's just a whole process of like learning a lot about writing. So today I will probably start reading the second chapter and I will continue working on that project. Then I will also pick up some new books in the library. I want to get more into poetry because I feel like those really help me or like get me inspired to write more of like showing instead of telling. So that's something that I want to get at the library. I also reserved some books, and I also have some books where I just want to like walk around a bit and see if something catches my eye. So it's a busy day at the library, I think. I'm very excited, and I will bring you along to that, all of that. So let's pack my bag and get ready to cycle to the library in the city center. As you could see, the sun started shining again when I left my house, which made the day already so much better. Last week, I read the first chapter of Save the Cat Writes a Novel, which was all about discovering the true hero of a story. And if you've watched any of my other writing videos, you might have seen me going back and forth in Act 1. And this is the part of the novel which introduces the reader to the main character. It shows them where they live, what they're struggling with, and basically who they are. And it's all in like a familiar territory. And something or someone is going to disrupt that bubble, which will push the character to do things or make decisions that they would rather not have been doing in the first place. And that will eventually lead to Act 2. Now, I'm currently writing a fantasy novel which takes place in the land of Djazar. There are multiple kingdoms containing different magical abilities, and there is one academy where children of these different kingdoms come together and learn about their abilities. I started this novel with a female character who I thought was the main hero of the story. But as time passed and I wrote more scenes, I kept disliking this character more and more. So much so that I started writing from different perspectives located somewhere else in Djazar. I got so sidetracked into the lives of these other characters that I also lost sight of the actual story that I wanted to tell. When I read the first chapter of Save the Cat Writes a Novel, I realized that the first main character I had started to dislike was actually the main hero of the story, and she had the longest journey to go on. She, in my opinion, also had the most interesting one, and so I began again. Let's hope this time it's the last time I go back to the first scenes of this story, unless it's my second draft, but we're not there yet, so... Now today in the library I worked through a part of the second chapter of Save the Cat Writes a Novel, which presented me with what needed to be written in Act 1, and according to those guidelines I wrote the first chapter of the novel, and I like it way more than what I had previously written. It also made me more interested into the female character and everything that she has to go through in the story, which is certainly a good thing because I have to write it. I was quite excited to write in this library again because the last time I'd worked here was around 4 or 5 years ago. I was studying for my last exams in high school then, which feels like a completely different life than now. I feel old. The library has changed so much though, like... It looks way more modern and spacious. They also added a lot more study areas, which were fully occupied by high school students that will be having their exams very, very soon. The nostalgia was real. But it was so lovely to see the library full again. I also realized that there was a rooftop where you could sit, so I ate my lunch there. I had a beautiful view of the rest of the city and basked in the sun for a while. However, there was still a chill in the air, so I returned inside again to continue working on the outline of the next 3 chapters, which basically dived more into the world of the main character and what she has to go through on a daily basis. It's always such a struggle to write the first few words or sentences of a chapter, even if I know where I want that chapter to go to or know what the character has to accomplish by the end of that scene. Writing those first letters is daunting. And for me, it doesn't get easier with time. Therefore, I usually stop writing in the middle of a sentence or after having written the first few sentences of a new scene, because I would be more focused and in the flow of writing and creating, which will make it somewhat easier to start writing the next time I pick that project up again. What also helps is going back to my outline and writing down what I changed or what I added instead of keeping it a rigid document that I have to adhere to. Something that I also picked up from other authors online is starting your writing session with a little sprint. This could be a random word or a sentence, and you just write anything down that comes to mind with that particular word or sentence. This way you get in the flow of writing, and I noticed that I'm more inclined to continue writing instead of staring at a blank page and not jotting anything down. A funny thing that I do myself, which I haven't seen or heard anywhere yet, is that I tend to do meditation before I start writing. Even if it's just for like 5 minutes, it always puts my mind at ease and brings me back to the here and now. So my mind is not rushing about all the different things that I have to do or write, or where I should start. Should I start with this scene or should I start with that one? Should I be continuing with like jotting down my outline? All these different things. If I just sit there and breathe, I become more mindful and more patient with myself, which makes it easier to decide what I should be doing first and what I should be writing down. I hope some of that helped if you have experienced a similar thing in your writing, because I'm just trying out a bunch of things that make it easier for myself to get into this habit of writing, and I have noticed that these things do help me. So I hope that if you're also writing and have struggled with this, that this could be some tips that you haven't heard before or have heard but forgot about. They help. At least for me. So I hope they help you too. Hello and welcome back. I just came back. I already did some other things and had dinner and everything, but I just wanted to have a little sit down and have like a recap or like a summary of what I've done today. So I started with reading the book Save the Cat Writes a Novel, and every time I read it, I'm like, yes, this sounds so logic. Also in the books that I've read myself and like the structure that they adhere to, it's very nice. And I pasted some more labels in there, and I only came into like Act 2, which I think I'm not at yet. I'm still in Act 1 and like trying to decipher how I want the story to start and like what is the most captivating way to like dive into her first world, or at least that's how they call it, like different worlds. And this is the first world that she's in, so we see her with the normal people she's with, her job, and like everything before the catastrophic thing happens. But I'm still working on that, and it's like a very great help to do that with this book, because it makes me realize so many different things that I didn't think about before. Like, I just have these scenes in my head, I just jot them down and like work on it, but I do feel like there's not a general structure where I'm aiming at, and I felt very lost in that way, because I think that's also one of the reasons why I kept going back and back to the beginning again, because I didn't know if it was good enough to continue with the story. Like, why would people want to read that story? Like, why is that character interesting, and why is her world interesting, and why does she have to go through that, you know? And I don't think I had that clear for myself, so I didn't really know how to move from that first act. But now I do feel like I have a more clear picture in my head, and I started working on like the first scene, like the capturing image again, because the last time when I started with my main hero and like establishing that was going to be the perspective that I was going to do, I started writing a scene, but then when I read this today, I was like, maybe that's not good, because that already sets a different tone that I did not want to put there yet. So I realized that, and then I started working on that first scene again, or like that first chapter, and I feel like I like it way more already, like the way that she does things, or like thinks about things, and I don't know, it's different. And maybe that's also because I'm getting like more and more into this world and the characters and what I want to do with the story, that it feels different for me already. But I do hate the fact that I've kept going back and back to those first few chapters instead of continuing. Although it's probably better that I do that and have continued and then need to revise like the whole thing and rewrite the whole book. So I don't know, maybe it's a good thing. But I did that, and then I kind of lost track of time and wrote for a very long time. I also did some research, and then I was like, maybe I should start with the other small project that I wanted to work with about the travels in Australia. I realized that because I have not edited the footage, I wasn't really sure what tone or theme I wanted to put on it, and therefore I was just a bit lost and didn't really continue writing that. I did jot some ideas down on like what I could be doing, but I haven't done them, and I think I might do that somewhere else this week. It will arrive and you will see it if it's there. But yeah, that's basically what I did today. I also got some new books. Let me show those as well, because I said that I wanted to get more poetry books. They didn't have the ones that I wanted, and so I didn't get any. I also reserved some books and they were there, so that was very nice. But there were also some other books that I wanted and they said they were available, but when I searched for them they weren't there, so that was very sad. But I did get some other books. The first book that I have is not my usual genre, but I feel like since the last reading vlog I've been jumping from genres, so why not something else? I got the Thursday Murder Club from Richard Osman. I know that a friend of mine has read this book and she said it was very good, so I'm very curious. This one is in English because I think 2 books are in Dutch and 2 books are in English. And then I got The Striker from Anna Huang. This is like your typical what story. I don't know. I felt like I needed something like this after devouring like very intense stories. And then I got the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. I think there's a whole series about this with like different vibes, but it's like a romance, just like this one was also a romance. And surprise, surprise, the next one is also a romance. It's like The Last Stop from Casey McQuiston. I read the other one, Red, White, Royal Blue, from her, and I really loved that story. And I had this one in my Goodreads, I think, for a year already, but I've never picked it up. So I was like, I saw it laying around, I was like, maybe I'll bring that as well. So now I've got like 3 romance books and 1, what is it, detective kind of vibes. What a diversity. But also at the same time, because I'm writing a fantasy novel, I find it very hard to at the same time read a fantasy novel, because it kind of blurs the lines and I have like difficulty splitting up the images. Not necessarily because the worlds are the same or like the magic is the same, because it's not, but I feel like once I get into a fantasy novel, I'm so locked into that story that I find it hard to write the fantasy I've created. I'm not sure if anyone else has this as well, let me know, but it's so hard to read your genre and when you're writing that genre. But that brings me to the end of this vlog. I hope you liked it, and I will see you the next time. Bye!